Hey, Ron here, and today I want to talk about the primaries and the legitimacy of democracy. Fun stuff. So, we know now, beyond any shadow of a doubt, beyond any question, that Bernie Sanders got fucked by the DNC. They willfully acted against him. They willfully favored other candidates over him. And for that reason, he didn't make the nomination back in 2016. It's not conspiratorial to say that those things happened. It's not conspiratorial to say that the DNC willfully took actions that knocked Bernie Sanders out of the running for the nomination, or attempted to, at the very least, take actions that knocked Bernie Sanders out of the running. Because we have information that proves that. There are the emails that were leaked by Julian Assange, I'm to understand. Which, I mean, fuck that guy. But the information itself is still there. So, I've worked with the DNC in the past, not a lot, and specifically with people who were operative. That's my furnace. People who operate in the DNC in Springfield and in Sangamon County, not people on like a national level or even a state level, really. But just being around those people and being around the people who are around the people who are active on a national level gives me a bit of insight into how they think. And here are some things that I understand. The DNC understands that it made a number of mistakes during the 2016 election. One of the ones that they talk about is that they took for granted that Hillary Clinton was going to win the election. And that caused people to stay home and not vote, because they didn't want to vote for Clinton and they didn't want to vote for Trump. And Democrats specifically in that instance. Another thing that they did is they fostered unintentionally, I think, or they think, I understand that they understand it to be unintentional, but what happened is they fostered hostility between people who wanted to vote for Bernie Sanders and people who wanted to vote for more or less everyone else. You will see people who talk about how people who want to vote for Bernie Sanders, that is, Bernie Bros, will cite this specifically. There's a video by Christy Winters where she talks about this. I'll link that in the underbar. Christy Winters, by the way, is going to, it has said that she's not going to vote for Bernie Sanders, and she seems very upset that he's winning nominations. She seems upset on Twitter, but I can't take Twitter seriously. And they understand, the DNC understands, that maybe the biggest mistake that they made was they put their fingers on the scales, or at least they appeared to put their fingers on the scales. I don't think I've gotten anyone from the DNC to admit that they put their fingers on the scales, but they have admitted that just the appearance of doing that had some really bad effects, specifically that it delegitimized their institution. And that made people not vote. And the compelling people to not vote is the most important thing. Generally speaking, the more people you have that turn out to an election, the greater chance that Democrats are going to win. So, a lot of times, Democrats are just focused on getting as many people to go out and vote as they can. Like, when I was canvassing for votes, I wasn't just talking to Democrats or independent voters. I was talking to some Republicans, too, who were at least open to the idea of voting against Trump. Which, I mean, the area I was canvassing won, Hillary Clinton won that area, that district, by like 80-something%, I think. It's not important. So, the Iowa caucus, am I right? The result of the Iowa caucus, not just that it was delayed, not just that the information was scattershot, not just the appearance of impropriety, but that Bernie Sanders lost by less than 1%, by just a sliver. I think that is the worst possible result that the DNC could have asked for, because that demonstrates the same impropriety that people actively fought against during the 2016 election. There's a lot of blame to go around for the for everything that happened in Iowa. The DNC made this new app, I guess, for people to count votes, and they told all of the different regional Democratic districts that this is what you're using to count the votes, and that app failing, it was a big part of it. But they're also, I'm gonna leave some Twitter threads, and I know I said I didn't take Twitter seriously, but this is an exception. I'm going to leave some Twitter threads that show either the appearance of impropriety or outright impropriety. And it's worthwhile to understand that this appearance of impropriety is so widespread that both the head of the DNC and Bernie Sanders have called for all of Iowa to be recanvassed. Which is to say, take all the votes and count them all again. I also think it's worthwhile to say that, the head of the DNC announcing this, he wouldn't have announced that unless they were literally already doing it. Major organizations, especially major government organizations, don't just do things spontaneously, because there needs to be a lot of coordination. And a lot of people need to be in the know about these things. There are things that can be made to appear spontaneous, but that's not the point. The thing about our elections, and not just the primaries, but our elections in general, is that they only work if people believe that they work. It's almost like magic, right? And when I say magic, I don't mean magic in, like, the, ooh, it just happens sense. Now, my mother, she's an animist, but I've described her as a mystic, too. And the way that she would explain magic to people is that it is a kind of work. You put a bit of yourself into something, and that bit of yourself keeps working after you've stopped. And people put blood, sweat, and tears into making these elections work. It just wouldn't work. A lot of the people you see going out, just the volunteers, even the people there at the polling stations, checking you in and giving you ballots and giving you those stickers, those people aren't getting paid to do that. And that's to say nothing of people who go out and go canvassing or do phone banks or go to other political actions. It is only through the work of all kinds of people that our elections are able to happen at all. The elections should not work the way that they do in a country as far spread as the United States. And yet they do because people believe in them. The DNC is very aware of this, and this is why they worry about people turning out. The less people you have turning out, then the less volunteers you have to help manage the elections, the less people you have who can do certain things, and the less elections you can have, ultimately. And then, the less elections that you have, the less people vote. It's a feedback loop, and it goes both ways. The more people you have coming out, the more people you have volunteering. This, incidentally, is also why they're typically, why the DNC typically doesn't engage in efforts to, gerrymander or electioneer in such a way that people find it more difficult to vote. Or at least people who aren't in prison. There are a lot of Democrats who still think that people in prison shouldn't be able to vote. That's not a position that I hold. I'm off topic again. Anyway. So, this appearance of impropriety that we're seeing in the primaries, I am 100% certain. Well, like, here's the problem, ultimately. Like, I can't say that there... It's not even that I can't say that there wasn't impropriety. It's that there probably was. It's that even someone like me, who's very skeptical of these things, and who has an understanding of how certain specific things work, looks at what happened in Iowa specifically, and sees all kinds of signs of electioneering and just general fuckery. The kind of fuckery that makes people not come out and vote. Because they don't feel like their voice is going to be heard. Because they think that the election has already been predetermined. Which, I mean, what happened in Iowa doesn't prove that, actually. If it had already been predetermined, then Joe Biden would have won by more than Pete Buttigieg did. But it's not that. It's the appearance. It's like a morale thing. Right? You need people to be pumped up. You need people to think that voting is important. You need people to think that their voice is going to be heard. And when people don't have that morale, when people don't think that voting is important, when people think it's pointless because the outcome's already been decided, that's when you start seeing that death spiral. And the DNC knows this. And I am 100% sure that they're shitting their pants right now. But this is good for us, the people who want to change things, because this gives us opportunity. We can start making demands. The DNC is aware that people want their voices to be heard. And if things keep getting fucked, then we can put our fingers on the scale, and the DNC will maybe not be forced to comply, but at least be forced to listen. So, there are a couple of things that we can do. I've been thinking about this for a while. I think the biggest thing, what ultimately happened in Iowa, I'm to understand, is that there was some coin flippery fuckery that happened. So there's a really easy way to fix that. You assign the person who won the popular vote a certain number of delegates. Or that a person won the popular vote should be reflected in how they're viewed, in their representation. That's not an outlandish prospect. The DNC's been has used the fact that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by almost 3 million votes to delegitimize President Trump. And rightly so. And rightly so. I agree with Pete Buttigieg when Pete Buttigieg says that the person who won the popular vote should win the election. We can put pressure and have the DNC assign a number of delegates in each state, a very small number, mind, but a number of delegates to the person who won the popular vote. I can even think there's a specific way you could do this, and that you could have a person, you could knock out two birds with one stone. The coin flipping bullshittery, that's not going to go away because the caucuses and the primaries are shockingly esoteric, and they're made to favor the system. But what you can do is you can have the DNC standardize how you flip a fucking coin. If I were to do it, I would have them print out a series of coins. You print them out to make sure that they're not specifically weighted. And then you have someone who is assigned to flip a coin in the instance of a tie. And they flip the coin and let it fall on the ground for everyone to see. That is how you standardize that. That minimizes absolutely... Like, I can flip a coin and catch it in midair and tell you whether or not it's heads or tails before it comes up. Most of the time. Just because I'm kind of good at that. But letting it fall to the ground will mitigate a lot of that. Because it's the act of catching it that makes it easier to tell. And what you do is, if that person is a delegate, if that person is assigned to vote, that person's vote goes to whoever won the popular vote in the state. I think that's fair. I think that works. There are other little things too, like you make it so that every ballot is... If they're insisting on having this app, which I'm to understand that they are, then you have them do that, but also count the ballots by hand. Well, not ballots, manually count everything. That's more work, but for, like... And here's the thing, here's a really fucky thing. People are going to say that people are going to say that all these things favor Sanders. But what they mean when they say that is that it favors fairness. Because again, like I can't stress this enough. The DNC put their fingers on the scale. And people know that. People were expecting that. That's why people were so angry about Iowa. Because it shouldn't have happened like that. But we can take advantage of it. We can start making demands, or we can start saying we're not going to show up. Related to the elections, there are a couple of other things that I wanted to say. First and foremost, Amy Klobuchar is not a serious candidate. Amy Klobuchar is a spoiler. Maybe spoiler isn't the right word. She is running in order to solicit funds for the DNC war chest. They're really low on money right now because people haven't been giving them funds. They've been giving all their money to Bernie Sanders. And I would be shocked if she didn't drop out after Super Tuesday when she'd solicited as many funds from donors as she could. Like, Amy Klobuchar is a frustrating person because she doesn't treat people well. She's hardline DNC establishment, but she my understanding is that she's always more comfortable and she has been more capable in a position of corporate bureaucracy. The DNC is the corporate arm of the Democratic Party. Than she would be in an actual elected position, answering to people. The other more important thing, the thing that I don't think I've seen anyone talk about, is Joe Biden's low ratings can be understood to be a result of Trump's relentless attacks on him. People are saying, I think the thing is that people have it twisted. People are saying, the turnout for Joe Biden was really low, but the turnout for Joe Biden was really low. Oh, look, you attacked this guy who only got 5% of the vote. No, he only got 5% of the vote because Trump attacked him relentlessly, constantly. And that concerns me a great deal because it means that the GOP might have been right when they decided not to get Trump angry. He might have a lot more influence than people are giving him credit for. And I don't know what to make of that. I've very straightforwardly stopped listening to Trump, stopped paying attention to him. I've blocked a couple people who keep talking about Trump. I don't care what he has to say. Because, he's a fascist, and fascists lie like rugs. Maybe a bit of advice I can give is not to listen to Trump. Not to pay him any attention. People have been saying that, but I don't know. I think that's all I have to say about that. I'm all said out. Regular links are in the description of the video. That's my Twitter if you want to see what kind of nonsense I'm getting up to on Twitter. That's my Curious Cat if you want to send me questions anonymously. That's my email account if you want to message me about leftist projects that you inexplicably think I could help out with. I'm always open to that. And that's my Coffee account. I'm really strapped for money right now. I'm expecting there to be at least 2 major hospital visits in my family very, very soon, and I'm not 100% sure that insurance will cover either of them. So, I'm still going to be making videos as much as I can, because this is important to me. It always has been important to me. I started making videos because it's important to me, but now more than ever, I really, really would appreciate any financial support that you're able to give. Yeah. Next video, I'm hoping that comes out on Sunday, should be about cancel culture. Again. But I'm gonna try and codify it and explain mechanically what it is. Or something like that. It's gonna be a bit wonky. So yeah. Until we get there. Take care of yourselves, alright?